Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment podcast hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the real cinch, Neal Lynch. I'm a former fourth-string college quarterback and middle relief pitcher who graduated with a film and media studies degree. Now I'm a single dad who likes to talk Giants football, Mets baseball, movies, TV, and comedy. On today's episode, we're going to be breaking down, recapping, reviewing, and reacting to the New York Giants' first victory of the 2024 NFL season, their 100th season of existence in the franchise, a 21-15 win over the Cleveland Browns. We'll also be previewing the upcoming Thursday night game against them boys, the Cowgirls from Dallas. Break that down, and then I'm going to take a look at, we've talked a lot about in the past, 0-2 starts. Kind of hinted at some teams in the past, not just Giants teams, but other teams that have started 0-2 and have made the playoffs. So we'll look at, there are a bunch more that I didn't know about. So I think there was 9 0-2 teams in the past 10 years that have made the playoffs. So we'll look at each of those teams and how they bounce back. We'll also look at over the franchise history. We're in the 100th season of Giants football. How many times have we started 0-2? And what have the results been for each of those 0-2 teams? That was a fun little exercise. So without further ado, let's get it out of in here. All right, New York Giants bounce back with a big win. I didn't have them winning this game. The spread was like 6.5 in favor of Cleveland. I figured Cleveland will right the ship, we'll make mistakes like we always do, and we'll mess it up. We'll play good enough to win, but we won't. That just seems to be how things go with this team under Brian Daboll. Plenty of games last year that we should have won, played well enough to win, didn't win. Should have beat the Commanders in week 2, came away with just a loss that we're going to look back at and really hate. At the end of the season, I have a feeling. So I didn't have us winning this game, but I failed to realize and recognize just how fucked Cleveland is. The Browns, top defense last year for most of the season, had their issues at quarterback with Deshaun Watson, bring in Joe Flacco, and he takes them to a playoffs berth. They get run off the road by the Houston Texans in the divisional round or wild card round, I forget. I think it was the wild card round. But I knew their offensive line was banged up. I thought that Shane Bowen wasn't going to listen to my podcast, and he was going to continue to play this soft as a baby doo-doo defense against Cleveland, and Cleveland would come away with a victory behind what has been, of recent history, a really strong running game. And I thought, hey, if we're going to give up 215 to the friggin' commies on the ground, Lord knows what the Browns will put up. And we were able to, for the most part, shut down the run game. I thought if there were ever a time for a pass rush, which has been not as advertised, right, in the offseason with the acquisition of Brian Burns, with Kayvon coming off a decent year, and Sexy Dexy up the gut, I thought this would be the time to feast. Now, will they? Usually, even though we did have 5 sacks against Washington, they were from guys that you are not expecting to get sacks. Jason Pinnock, Micah McFadden. And I think that was the MO for Shane Bowen coming into this season. I think he said as much in Hard Knocks, where it was like, wink blitzes. I don't blink. I don't blitz. Like wink. I'm not going to blitz because we don't have to blitz. We have Kayvon and Burns and Dexter and Aziz. And so I don't need to bring that extra pressure. I don't need to blitz. And we found out through 2 weeks that, yeah, you kind of have to. They're not exactly at the level of like the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say. So, we'll get to how the defense performed. But overall, I think last week in my preview, I said, if we do get a win, what kind of win would it have to be for me to have my confidence and my hope come back up to a reasonable level? And I don't know that this win did that. Now, I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. We should all celebrate a win. You celebrate the wins, no matter how small. And this felt like a very, it didn't feel like a big win. The Browns' offensive line is so banged up, and we took advantage of that, which is great. We get out to a 21-7 halftime lead. We don't score a single point in the second half. And yes, Devin Singletary goes down the one, costing me a win in my fantasy league. Thanks, Devin. Thanks, Motor. And we miss a field goal. Greg Joseph, newly added Greg Joseph, misses a field goal. So maybe we should have had 10 more points. Maybe we should have 31 points. I think if we went 31-15, I'm a little more open and rosy about our prospects. But for me, I'm still seeing some very concerning things. Did we improve over week 2? Of course, we got the win. Not just in the win column, but we did improve in several other areas. The offensive line continues to be something that I think we can breathe a sigh of relief about. It's finally come together. It's finally gelling. We finally got that chemistry that we've been looking for so long, where we can have, if these 5 can stay healthy throughout the season, we have a fucking shot in every game. Every game we'll have a shot. And I think that's how this season differs from last season. So I know last episode I was saying, well, this season's different from last season because you have your healthy guys and we're still playing like shit and losing. Whereas 2023, you lost all your guys, and so that's pretty much the main reason why you were losing games. I'm coming around on the fact that we should have a shot in almost every game, thanks to an offensive line like that. Now, I'm not saying we're going to win every game. I'm not saying we're going to be favored. I'm just saying I don't know. Because you see, you look at that week 1 loss to the Vikings now. The Vikings are now 3-0. They've now taken down the San Francisco. They've now blown the doors off of Houston, 34-7. Houston, pretty solid offense, really great defense. And Minnesota took it to them, big time. So I'm starting to think that Minnesota is looking more and more like a 1 or a 2 seed, like I had mentioned last week. And if that's the case, and that's what we can expect against a 1 or 2 seed, it was embarrassing. We didn't look great. But if we look at that game and we rewind it back and we say, well, we had our shots, right? We had our opportunities, and if our defense is what it is against the Browns, then maybe we've got a shot. I still, if we come out and beat the Cowboys on Thursday night, whole different ball game. Now the Cowboys look like shit, which we'll get to that in the preview. Before we get to that, let's recap this motherfucker. So last week against the Commanders, we became the first team in NFL history to score 3 or more touchdowns, allow no touchdowns, and lose in regulation. It feels like that every week is some kind of unbelievable stat that no other team in not just Giants history, but NFL history has ever done. And it's usually on the negative side of things. It's not a great stat. It's something you don't want to hang your hat on. And that just has been like the staple of the Brian Daboll era, where it's just like, man, when we lose in epic fashion. It's not just a run-of-the-mill loss. We lost by a touchdown. It's like, nope. We're doing things that no one else has ever done in league history. So, I don't know. I can't remember if I pointed that out in the recap last week, but, it's stuff like that that does not give me, the kind of boost that I'm looking for in terms of outlook for this team, right? But in the same respect, it's like I saw what Cleveland was going through. The blowout loss against Dallas in the home opener, multiple injuries, edging out the Jaguars, who are not looking competitive. Watson is all over the place, doesn't look like he's comfortable. And Myles Garrett dealing with his foot issues, which I didn't realize were a lifelong affliction. So did we face a fully healthy, 100% fully stocked, locked, and loaded Cleveland Browns team? No. But a win is a win, right? And you have to celebrate that. So that being said, if we had gone up against a fully staffed Cleveland Browns squad that's fully healthy, I don't know that we win that game. Cleveland was also doing some weird stuff from a game plan standpoint, from a schematic standpoint. I just saw a clip of Deshaun Watson talking in the post-game press conference to the media, saying that a lot of what Shane Bowen was doing was unexpected. They weren't expecting it, and that's a credit to Shane Bowen, right? But why get away from the run when they know we have subpar run defense? I think that's mostly due to the fact that we did get out to such a big lead, but also, their offensive line is not what it usually is because of all the injuries. And then defensively, I think that's where Cleveland fucked up the most, because you look at what they did in the second half, they pretty much shut us down in the second half. We didn't do much of anything in the second half. And that's because they were bringing more pressure, more rushers. In the first half, they were just letting 4 guys go at us, and Jones was able to pick them apart. They then bring an extra rusher or more in the second half, and he's not as efficient, not as productive. So, it took him a half to adjust, and it was just a little too late, too little, too late. So, the way things started in this game, I was like, I don't know how Dable's gonna talk this one away. Like, Eric Gray fumbles the kickoff. Again, I don't think I'm alone in saying this. What the fuck is Eric Gray doing returning punts, kicks, or packages, gifts? What is he doing returning anything? Videotapes? Eric Gray should not be returning at all ever again. And I get it, as a coach, you want to show confidence in your team and your players, and you want to say, hey, everyone makes mistakes. But it's like, at some point, you have to adjust and say, listen, you're a liability. You're costing us games. On this one, he cost us 6-7 points. Fumbles the opening kickoff. First play from the Browns is a touchdown to Amari Cooper over, I think it's Deontay Banks, who, I don't know. I don't think he had a great game. This might be his worst game of the season so far. We're 3 games in. So, 11 seconds in, we're down 7-0, and it's just like, here we fucking go again. We just can't get out of our own way. Shooting ourselves in the foot. Not, just beating ourselves. And you would think, after the first 2 weeks, that Dable would course correct or would do something during that week of practice to button things up. And that was not the impression I got in the first 11 seconds of this friggin' game. But then we calmed down and put together some nice drives. And, defense woke up, which was great. Brian Burns getting his first strip sack at that. That ends up getting us in great field position that we capitalize on, and we actually score a touchdown on, which is something that we have not done in years past, maybe 2022, where it's like we get a turnover in enemy territory, and we're able to actually score 6. We're actually able to get a touchdown. I don't think that's rare. Didn't happen in the opener when we got it in Vikings territory. And that to me is a good sign. Is like, say what you will about the Browns defense and what their game plan was, but to get the turnover and score 6 there was nice. We pretty much, we dominated for most of the game. Almost 34 minutes of possession, 21 first downs to their 16, 112 rushing yards, 236 passing yards, 340 total yards, held them to under 220 total yards. We did fumble 3 times, and we did have 9 penalties. And our third down conversions, 4 of 14. So we actually matched Cleveland in third down conversions. They also went 4 of 14. And I feel like, I don't know if I have the stat here, but I feel like most of our conversions were in the first half. In the second half, we couldn't convert at all. It was just a no-go. So, and we did get 8 sacks. And we held them to under 70 yards rushing, which is a big win. DJ played another. I know this is gonna sound like I'm a hater, which is weird because I was such a huge proponent of his for so long. He's playing the best ball we've seen since 2022. 2023 was just a disaster through and through. So we have not seen this kind of play from him in 2 years. So I think that's why a lot of people are excited and getting hyped and amped about it. And he has looked much better each week. So he's improving. Week 2, I thought, 57% completion is not great. He had 53% completion in week 1. He looked like dog shit. Week 2, he completes 57%, but he has a 100 QB rating because he didn't turn the ball over and threw a couple touchdowns. And then we see in week 3, I think he had, 24, 34. He has a much higher completion percentage. So we're seeing improvement, which is great. Okay. It's not like, we're seeing just week 1 over and over again. So, and that's a testament to what the Vikings defense is and has done. Brian Flores has just really turned that unit around. They're one of the top defenses in the league. The amount of shit they're throwing at quarterbacks make your head spin. I think Phil Simms was saying it on his podcast with his son Matt, that he was just blown away by the amount of looks and all the different coverages, disguises that the Minnesota defense is throwing at quarterbacks. So Daniel, everyone was out on him after week 1. He bounces back somewhat in week 2, but still is missing certain throws. In week 3, he's looking even a little bit better. He made 2 throws that, he has the one throw on that, we're talking about the beginning of the game and how it just looked the same old Giants. He throws that pick inside our own 20, and it's called back due to a very questionable roughing the passer call. If this is 5 years ago, I don't even know if he gets that call. 10 years ago, no way he gets that call. So that would have been fucking, I don't know that we would have bounced back from that. that stayed an interception. So, not a great play. I know he gets hit on that throw that Malik Neighbors had to break up to prevent the interception. What would have been another interception inside our own 20 that would have led to a Cleveland points. So, I think he had Theo Johnson on a wheel route up the left, like a tight end leak wheel route up the left sideline, possibly. But he tries to throw it, his arm gets hit, so obviously it falls way short, and Malik has to make the great play. But again, those are 2 plays where it's ultimately 0 interceptions. And he throws the 2 touchdowns, both to Malik, 24, 34, 236. You look at some of the more advanced analytics, and I think he did. He played above what was expected of him, right? 0.19 expected pass attempts per play in the 68th percentile, plus 3.2% completed percentage over expected, according to Next Gen Stats. 50% success rate, 6.8 average depth of target, 2.5 average air yards short of sticks, 1 or 4, and this is where he comes up short, is both against pressure and in throwing the ball deep. I think if they can work that out and he can start hitting on some of these deeper balls, then I grant you permission to get very excited about this Giants team. But I can't get there just yet. It's yes, I'm glad they won. Cleveland's in shambles, and Dallas is I don't even know if Dallas is the real test now. If we come out and beat Dallas, yes, we're exercising some demons. We haven't done it a lot, but I don't know that it's like, let's start, shredding the ticker tape for the parade. But it is like, it's just like, okay, momentum is building. I can feel it, but I'm not ready to say that we're, a steamroller at that point, given how the Cowboys have played. So, this is what I mentioned before. Against four or fewer pass rushers, he's 17 of 21, which is an 81% completion percentage for 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 10.5% completed pass over expectancy, which is huge. But then against 5 or more pass rushers, 7 of 13, 54% completion, 93 yards, negative 8.4% completed passes over expectancy. So that's going to be the key, is for Daniel to, I think we saw him under pressure in this game, and I guess from the broadcast view, I didn't get to see a lot of this, but there were plenty of passes where he's throwing the pass and he's getting hit right in the chops and hit hard. I didn't realize it at the time, but that one touchdown to Malik in the corner, or Malik makes that unbelievable grab to get the right toe down before his hand hits. I don't know that any other receiver on the Giants could have hauled that in. And I was critical of it. I said, prior play, he overthrows Theo Johnson, wide open Theo Johnson in that same corner. And then he almost overthrows Malik. And he probably would have overthrew pretty much anyone else on the team if it weren't for Neighbors. But then you look at the end zone cam from behind, and it's like he took a Myles Garrett fastball right to the sternum. So that's what you like to see. I mean, you don't like to see your quarterback get hit, but you do like to see your quarterback stand in there, throw a pass, complete it, and take a hit and bounce back up. And he was able to do that multiple times during this game. So the Daniel Jones we saw in week 1, saw a little bit of in week 2, not really. And then we didn't really see it at all in week 3, other than those two really questionable throws. So I think as long as this offensive line stays healthy, Daniel Jones should give you a chance to win against some of the more average to pedestrian defenses. Against the Minnesotas of the world, I just don't, the defenses that are top notch, like I can't even begin to think about what the Steelers game is going to look like. I mean, that legitimately is just like, I don't even know if we'll get a first down in that. I still don't have a tremendous amount of confidence in our offense. We are better than where we were in 2023. And I'll say this, I think that this offense is better than the one that we had in 2022. It's the best offense that we've probably had since 2015, I want to say. I'd be willing to say that, sure. Because we actually scored touchdowns. I mean, again, Commanders' defense, not great. Browns' defense couldn't figure it out for half. If the Browns did what they, in the second half, if they went about the game plan, if they took their second half game plan and did it in the first half, I don't even know what the results would have been. But Jesus, that game against the Steelers right before Halloween too, super scary. But the Cowboys defense doesn't look all that great. So again, it'll be a test. It'll be a slightly bigger, better test than the Browns were. And we'll see how our offense fares. I think the Seahawks have a pretty decent defense. I'm not quite sure about the Bengals. Eagles always seem, barring that last, that 2-minute meltdown against the Falcons, they look pretty decent. And then you have the Steelers. So the caliber of defense is going to pick up here over the next stretch of games. So, but, it's hard to complain. Leave it to me to complain about a quarterback that has a rating over 100 back-to-back weeks. Leave it to this guy. But I still think he is missing open guys. The accuracy is still not quite there. I know it's one play out of 72 snaps, but you boot right, Belly's calling for the ball, he's wide open, and you put it in a place where he has to go down and get it. Whereas if you hit him in stride, he can pick up an extra 10 yards. It's nitpicky Neal coming at you, rearing my ugly head again. But listen, it's better than what we thought was going to happen. Because it was like, after week 1, it was like, this guy's just completely shot. His confidence is gone. He doesn't pull the trigger. Accuracy is questionable, but, everyone has been remarking about how his footwork has improved. His poise has improved, pocket presence. So, yeah. I mean, you win against Dallas, and it's the Dan wagon is back open for business. The ground game looked solid again. 16 carries for Devin Singletary. Motor had 65 yards and a touchdown. He could have had 2. Should have had 2. More than 4 yards a carry, which is good to see. Coming into the game, he had 12 missed tackles forced, which was second highest in the league, and he had the highest avoided tackle rate at 46.2%. So, a quality signing by Joe Shane. The only knock on this dude, fumbleitis. He's got a bad taste of fumbleitis that have really put games in jeopardy, put wins in jeopardy. If he doesn't fumble the ball against the Commanders, you can make an argument that we win that game. If he doesn't fumble the ball here, the Browns are not making a comeback. So he's got to learn how to hang on to the ball. Consult Tiki Barber. He's around. Tyrone Tracy Jr. got 5 carries for 23 yards. So I like that they're mixing him into the game plan more. It seems like he's a little more effective than Eric Gray, especially as a pass catching back. Jones had 8 carries for 20 yards. I'm still not, I don't know. I'm not really comfortable with him carrying the ball anymore. I don't know what it is. I think it's just like the injury history, and I think I was watching some highlights, putting together this blog post, this like monster blog post that no one will read. I was watching some highlights from yesteryear of Daniel Jones, and it was just like, it just seemed way more successful with design runs and with scrambles, and I'm not getting that vibe this year. So I really do think if he wants to last longer in this league, I don't know. And I mean, I guess everyone says that about scrambling quarterbacks, right? They said it about Steve Young. They said it about Lamar Jackson, Vic Cunningham. It's like anyone that can scramble, they say, well, it can't last forever. You have to think about developing other aspects of your game to compensate for your loss of your legs. Jesus. Traumatic much? But, yeah, I just, and I think Daniel's got his confidence back. It's not completely back, I don't think. I just think he's not as shell-shocked. The offensive line is giving him enough time to go through his progressions and make his reads. A lot of people thought, myself included, that Dable was telling Jones, if your first read isn't there to attack the B gap, and we thought, well, that's because Daniel Jones can't read defenses. But maybe it was more the fact that, no, your offensive line won't give you the amount of time to get to your second or third read. But now we're seeing an offensive line that, Andrew Thomas had one of the worst games of his career, or at least for the past 2 years. But yet everyone else stepped up and played fairly well. So I think, he doesn't have to, it's not even like he's actively, consciously thinking about it. I mean, I know, I didn't play at a very high level, but if I'm playing in a game and I've been hit, I drop back to pass and I've been hit before I can throw the ball multiple times, 3 or 4 times before I can get to my first read. It's like, I'm going to throw the first read regardless, because I know I don't have time to get to the second read and I can't scramble. So, And then Malik Neighbors. I mean, this is the star of the show. Already considered one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He was nominated for Rookie of the Week after last week when he became the youngest player ever with 10 or more catches, 100 or more receiving yards and touchdown catches. He this week becomes the first player in NFL history with at least 20 receptions and 3 touchdown catches in his first 3 career games. His 23 catches are tied with Anquan Bolden, who had 23 in 2003. Second most receptions by a player in his first 3 career games in NFL history. Only Puka Nacua had more. That was last season with 30. At 21 years and 56 days old, Neighbors is the youngest wide receiver in NFL history with 2 touchdown receptions in a game, surpassing Mike Evans, who did it at 21 years and 73 days on November 2nd, 2014. He is second in receptions, 5th in yards, first in touchdowns, first in 20-yard catches, 20-plus yard catches, and 7th in YAC. So, off to a hot start, and I think someone tweeted that he's on pace for like 100 and I don't even know how many catches for 1,500 yards or almost 1,600 receiving yards, which would be nice to see. You know, and what we're probably going to see, or what we have already started to see, is that these defenses and defensive coordinators are going to start to shade their coverage or, lean their coverage towards him, shift their coverage towards him, double, triple teams, which is only a good thing because then you have guys like Slayton and Wandale and Theo, potentially. I don't know about Hyatt. I guess he's still in the doghouse for whatever reason, and then those should open up. But I think what was most encouraging about the passing game is the return of this screen. Holy fuck. We have not been able to, and I'm not talking about these bullshit wide receiver screens. I'm talking about like screens to the running back. Like, we just have not been able to figure that out for so long. And I see all these great teams, namely the Chiefs, I think the Niners do it well, of throwing screens to the running backs and getting big chunk yards out of it. So it was like, a sight for sore eyes. That's for goddamn sure. To see that we're able to get our screen game back in order. Because I think that's takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback. It, not only takes pressure off them, but it also it's got to be frustrating, super frustrating for the defensive line, for the pass rushers on the other side of the ball, and it's like probably one of the best ways to counter punch or counterattack a really, really top-notch pass rush. So if we can continue to throw those kind of screens, that's going to be huge for us. Wandale Robinson had 7 catches on 8 targets for 61 yards. Singletary also added, like I mentioned, in the screen game, 4 catches on 4 targets, 43 yards, which is so nice to see because I think in the past, we've always seen our running backs have in the past would be like 4 catches, 17 yards. Like they're not doing shit when they catch the ball. So Slayton had kind of a quiet day. I know he had a concussion last week, so he was kind of, did he have a concussion last week? I'm not sure. Maybe. So he was not, Jalen Hyatt only had the 1 target. Theo Johnson only 1 catch, but it went for 13 yards on 3 targets. I would like to see him be a little more active in the passing game. That would be nice. Myles Garrett had kind of a quiet day. He did get a couple pressures, maybe a couple QB hits, but again, he's dealing with these weird feet thing that he's been having to cope with since birth, apparently. So I don't know what the rest of it. He's like, I'm not going to stop playing until they tell me to stop playing. But apparently that's an ongoing issue. But he wasn't like he wasn't the world destroyer that he typically is. Zadarius Smith did have a sack, as did Agbo Akaranko. Jordan Hicks had a tackle for loss. So, I think Greg Newsome had a couple passes defended. But, I don't know that the Browns defense has had that many injuries on that side of the ball. But, they came out in full force in that second half. I mean, you look at the first half. what is it? We scored on 3 of 5 drives. 3 touchdowns on 5 drives with 2 3-and-outs. Of course, the best drive was the 14-play, 93-yard drive that took up almost 7 minutes. We also had a 13-play drive that took up 8 minutes, 81 yards. That's what we like to see. That's it. What happened to us last week against the Commanders, and now we're able to do it to the Browns. But then you look at the second half. Fumble, punt, miss field goal, end the game. So it's like we didn't really come around. You know, I mean, we had that, you know, we were gifted that field position when Watson had the muffed handoff with Jerome Ford. It's like it was just gifted to us, and then to not turn that into points is just, can't have that happen if you want to win games. Didn't come back to bite us, but could have. 4 plays, -1 yards on the Cleveland 29. Jeez Louise, dude. And then obviously Singletary goes down, so he could have had a touchdown there. But as I mentioned, Brian Burns gets his first sack as a Giant. He also had 5 pressures, 4 hurries, and an 88.6 overall grade from PFF. Elijah Chapman, undrafted free agent, who is drawing comparisons to John Randall, but only because of his size, not because of his play. He's not quite on John Randall's level just yet. Maybe he just needs more face paint. But he had a 90.3 overall grade, 6 pressures, 5 hurries, 1 sack. Dexter Lawrence, 89.6 overall grade with 8 pressures, 4 hurries, and 2 sacks. Micah McFadden had half a sack, as well as Bobby Okereke, Nacho, and Kayvon. Azeez Ojulari had a sack, as did Jason Pinnock. Micah McFadden had 82.3 overall grade, and Jason Pinnock 82.2 overall grade. Browns had 80 total yards on their first 40 plays. We recorded 17 QB hits, tied for the second most in a game since 1999. And I guess the Cowboys also recorded 17 hits against the Browns in week 1. So, you know, it's that you can't ever use injuries as an excuse, apparently, for your team's performance. But, you know, when you're that banged up along the offensive line, it's kind of hard to mask and get around. It really is. This was the most sacks by the Giants in a game since 2014. It's been 10 years since we had 8 sacks. We have 14 sacks this season, with 13 of those coming in the past 2 weeks. It's the second highest total currently in the NFL. We blitzed 51. So I have 2 different stats. They're around the same percentage. The first one says that we blitzed 51% of the time against the Browns. And the second one says that we brought more than 4 rushers on 27 of 47 dropbacks, which is 57%, according to Next Gen Stats. I'm willing to believe Next Gen Stats over the other stat, but more than half the time, we're bringing the heat, which I like to see. I cannot stand us playing off the ball, not bringing anyone, allowing Watson or the quarterback to survey the field, move around in the pocket, and find someone who gets free, gets loose. It's just, it's such a slow, painful death. I'd rather die by fire. Try by fire, die by fire. Just send guys and, Watson versus the Blitz was 7 of 18, 80 yards and a touchdown with 5 sacks. So 5 of 8 sacks came against the Blitz. It's that simple. Blitz. I know Shane Bowen has made his reputation on not blitzing and relying on his front 4 or whatever to get pressure. But I don't know that we can do that. So let's just bring some guys. Let's bring the blitz. So more of that, please. I'd rather get burned by the blitz than have these like huge gas chunk plays where it's like 3rd and 12 and we give up a first down. It's like, fucking A. Even on that one touchdown to Cooper, not the first one, the second one, like they're at the 5 or 10 yard line. They're inside the 10, and Banks is playing off at the goal line. It's giving so much padding, and he, for whatever reason, he cannot figure out how to deflect the ball. I've seen it so many times where he's there, he's in position, He's got his arm out, he's got his hand out, the ball's coming, and he just flat out misses it. It happened on the fourth down, the last fourth down that the Browns had, when Watson throws the Tillman and hits him right in the numbers. And, Banks swats the ball and misses it. It happened against the Vikings with the Jefferson touchdown. He swipes and misses it. I think it might have happened on the Cooper touchdown, the second one. But, yeah, as I was mentioning, I don't think Banks had a really quality game. Watson was 21 of 37, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jerome Ford only 10 carries, 37 yards. So they kind of just abandoned the run for most of the game. Now this was after last week's game. I saw this tweet, but I thought it was relevant. The Titans allowed the fewest rushing yards in the NFL during Shane Bowen's 3 seasons as their DC. Can you get our run defense to look like this, please? Dable said before offering him the Giants' defensive coordinator job. And the answer has been a definitive no thus far. The Giants ranked 28th in run defense through 2 games. That ranking should improve after this outing, where we only allowed, I think it was like 69 total rushing yards, with the bulk of those big runs coming from Watson. Amari Cooper targeted 12 times, 7 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdowns. A lot of that's on Deonte Banks. That first touchdown, 11 seconds in the game, it's a pretty good throw from Watson and a pretty good catch from Cooper. So I don't know, there was a ton to do there except, turn your head back to the ball, strip the ball once the receiver puts his hands out. But no other player for the Browns had more than 33 yards receiving. So, we had a pretty solid run there. They did have a missed field goal, but it was punt, fumble, punt, missed field goal, punt, touchdown, fumble, downs. So Browns only had 2 drives that went more than 5 plays. None of their drives went more than 49 yards. So defense came to play, and it's good to see because, man, they got roasted up and down, both against Minnesota and against Washington. And that's a good segue to our preview of the Giants-Cowboys game this Thursday night in primetime at MetLife. Cowboys are favored by 4.5. Over-under is 43.5. Against my better judgment, I bet against the Giants last week against the Browns, and they won. Do I bet against them again, knowing that it's a reverse jinx and that might spur them to win again? Tough to say. Give me a minute. Let me get through all this, and I'll give you my thoughts. But last 5 matchups have not been pretty. We got blown out pretty hard twice last year. 49-17 in Dallas in November, and then 42 goose egg in the home opener. The beginning of the end. We had the Thanksgiving game in 2022 where we lost by 8. Did Saquon drop it, or was it Daniel? No. Oh yeah, it was Daniel. Could Daniel have thrown it better? Did Saquon drop it? I failed to realize that, because Saquon was catching a lot of heat after dropping that pass in the Monday night game against the Falcons that would have essentially sealed the win, that he's had the most drops of any running back since 2021, 16. And I was like the biggest advocate to throw the ball to him more. I just thought, whatever play calls we've had are not designed very well for him. It was like, I can only remember, it's like you had that. I loved that one pass to him in the Saints game in 2021 where he took it to the house. There was a pass to him, I believe, in a Niners game that was awesome. It's like, just get him up the field, make a move, and he's open, and then he can take it. So he dropped that. Just like some say, he dropped that on Thanksgiving Day against the Cowboys. Lost to the Cowboys in September 2022 by a touchdown. Lost in December 19th, 2021, 21-6 at home. Cowboys lead the all-time series 75-47. We have lost 13 of our last 14 to the Cowboys dating back to 2017. We have lost 19 of our last 24 against the Cowboys, going back to the start of the 2012 season. It's been a rough stretch. I mean, this stretch is basically on par with what we saw most of the 90s, not all the 90s, but for sure all the 70s. I mean, I'm looking at like from 64 to 80, which is, if you're a Giants, an older Giants fan, the dark ages for the Giants. I wasn't alive then. I was born in 80. Some say I'm the good luck charm that brought the franchise back to prominence. But from 64 to 80, I think we won 4 or 5 times. So it's a lot of L's. A lot of L's. I mean, Dallas just became a franchise in 1960, was it? And so, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So there was a stretch where there was just, So we're looking at a similar stretch now. Is this a turning of the tide? I fucking sure hope so, dude. They're 5th in points scored per game, but they're also 30th in points allowed per game. I mean, the Saints went ape against them, 44 points scored. And then Baltimore was pretty much blowing them out. I think they were leading 28-6 at one point, and maybe let their foot off the pedal and let them come back in the game. Dallas recovers the onside kick, and then they score, and then they do another onside kick, which I thought was weird because they had timeouts. But Baltimore gives them the ball back, so it ended up being 28-25. But that for the majority of that game, Baltimore was dominating, mostly because of the run. I think they ran for like 200-plus yards against Dallas. So they are 1st in passing yards per game. They had that big game against Cleveland where they had put up 40, something like that, 30 some odd, 40 some odd points against Cleveland, in Cleveland. And then, they basically had to had to exclusively throw the ball when they were down big against New Orleans and Baltimore. But they're 29th in rushing yards per game. And I think that's what separates this Dallas team from prior successful Dallas teams, is that they were always able to run the ball. And even though Zeke is back, he's not the same old Zeke. Tony Pollard went to the Titans. They have Rico Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn, and they have Dalvin Cook on the practice squad. They just have not been able to run the ball. Now, is that a byproduct or an offshoot or consequence of the fact that they get down by so much and their defense has been not playing like they used to last year? Probably. Defense is 14th in passing yards per game, but they are dead last in rushing yards per game. So, Devin Motor Singletary, to the right, to the left, and up the middle. I think that's what we have to establish early on, and just keep pounding the rock, keep pounding the rock, keep pounding the rock. Then the play action opens up, and then we can get some big chunk plays. We're scoring touchdowns as an offense, which we have not been doing. We certainly didn't do it a lot last year, and not a ton the year before, but yet we're still 29th in points scored per game. I mean, we scored 3 touchdowns against Cleveland. We scored 3 against Washington. So then we had the missed field goal, and didn't even have a kicker in the second week. So I think the number's a bit deceiving. We are 20th in points allowed per game. Still in the negative in takeaway differential. We've had some chances to take away the ball, and we haven't done it. But we're 19th in passing yards per game, 19th in rushing yards per game, 13th in passing yards allowed per game, which is interesting. I think that it's very weird to see us that we're 23rd in rushing yards allowed per game. You think those numbers would be reversed, considering coming to the season how heralded and applauded Shane Bowen's defenses have been for their rush defense, and the fact that we didn't really have a solidified CB2. And some are saying we don't even have a CB1. That Deonte Banks is the CB2, and we don't have a CB1. Yikes. So maybe Banks has a bounce back game here. And he'll have to, because CeeDee Lamb is a menace, even though he appears like he's super frustrated with Dak. and, throwing temper tantrums on the field and on the sideline. This is the first Cowboys team where I'm not, I don't know. I'm not like, I don't know that they have it this year. In prior years, it was like I would talk shit about them, but it was always like, yeah, they'll probably still make the playoffs. And this year, and it could be just a funky bad stretch, but who knows? I mean, this is, I said this after the week 2 loss to the Commanders, that this is really the big test to see if this team, what the Giants are made of. You come out at home and you beat the Cowboys, you get your monkey off the back, and it maybe gives you that kind of the swagger you need to go and make a run. You come out and get blown out again by the Cowboys, we're back to square one yet again. We have not sacked Dak Prescott since 2021, which is mind-blowing. So I think if, you shut down their run, which seems like we have decent potential to do. You have Banks mirror CeeDee Lamb and give him some help. You force Dak Prescott to use Brandon Cooks or Turpin or whoever that third guy is. And was it Turd Ferguson, their tight end? You force Dak to use other routes to beat us. And offensively, it's like, let's establish the run. And we're no longer this Giants team where the Cowboys can just stack in the box and not have to worry about anything. I think that's, Micah Parsons should still scare you. I don't think that has changed anything. But it's not the same Cowboys defense that was so tough on us last year, I don't think. Vander Esch retired. I just think that Malik will have another great game. I can see him getting double digits catches for sure. I can see him getting 10+ catches. And it's just a matter of, like, can we get someone else to going in the passing game? And it's looking more and more like it'll probably be Wandale. But I'd like to see, I just like to see a deep shot to Slayton or a deep shot to Hyatt and loosen Dallas up so we can start getting a lot of these crossers, get Theo Johnson in the mix. But this will be a Devin Singletary game. Hold on to the ball. That Devin Singletary does not fumble, and he gets minimum 15 carries, which I feel like that's even too low. I think he needs to get 20 carries. We should come out with a win. But I don't know. It's still Dallas. It's still Dallas, and we play our ugliest football against Dallas. There are a lot of talking heads saying, like, I don't, because it is a short week, because we're coming off the win, we're feeling good about ourselves, and Dallas is in disarray, that they won't have time to recalibrate and get back on the right foot. And it won't be a get-right game for them, but geez Louise, man. Is that spidey sense. And I'm not talking Brian Burns. That spidey sense is just, like, kicking in of, like, oh, is this the get-right game for Dallas? To make everyone forget about what's gone on the past 2 weeks. I don't know. That being said, you come out of it with a win. You're 2-2. Dallas is now 1-3. Commies play tonight as I'm recording this. If they lose tonight to the Bengals are looking to get right. The Eagles are just squeaking out wins. It's hilarious that the city of Philly is down on Nick Sirianni and the Eagles when they could very easily be 3-0. It's like, even after they were 10-1 last year, there were people shitting on them. It's just like, there's no pleasing them, I guess. But, some are saying the Eagles are not looking as dominant and not looking like a number 1 or number 2 seed. So, this could be a season where, similar to like a 2020 or 2011, where it's like the NFC East is just battling. Just like, it's just a battle going down the wire. It's not 1 or 2 teams taking off and taking away with it. The division, it's like a 3-4 team mix of just like everyone's in it. Could be. So, goddamn. I want to take the Giants on the spread and the money line. I really do. And I think I would take the under. So I will. You only live once, right? I think this is, it bears repeating. Big test. But is it really just working through the rust, getting the chemistry down, so on and so forth? For the love of God, I see other teams that are able to turn around in way less time than we have. But, we talked about how wacky the league is and how it's not so far-fetched for what appears to be a mediocre Giants team to survive and hang around and be in the playoff hunt. The fucking Broncos beat the Buccaneers in Tampa, handedly. The Rams, who are the walking dead, come back and beat the Niners. Niners are 1-2. So, there's just some weird shit. Carolina, Raiders come back and beat Baltimore. They then lose to Carolina because Carolina went to Andy Dalton. The Falcons probably should have beat with better play calling, they could have beat the Chiefs. And Saints almost take down the Eagles. So season is not as over as I thought it was. I'll just say that. Just take another step in the right direction. Stop getting in your head so much and just play some goddamn football and have some fucking fun. As Jason Pinnock said, fuck it. Fuck it. We're in fuck it mode. Just fuck it, dude. 2 tears in the bucket. So, yeah. We win regardless of how we win. It's always a good thing to win. I don't know that, seeing how the Cowboys have been playing, I don't know that I'd be super stoked about our playoff chances, but it's stay the course, 1,000 points away. So it would just be nice to beat Dallas. It's always nice to beat Dallas. I just don't know that this one has as much juice as a win in prior seasons would have been. But it's the past. We're living in the here and now. I think we have a pretty good shot of taking them down and beating them. Daniel Jones sucks in prime time. We know that. He's 1-11, 1-12. He's only had one win in prime time, so he's not great in prime time. As a franchise, as an organization, we're not great in prime time. So it would be so Giants for me to get my hopes up just a skosh, just a smidge for the Cowboys to come in and just obliterate us. Barf. We also have to see how Drew Phillips comes back. Adoree Jackson got hurt. Drew Phillips got hurt. Those are 2 big injuries, But I hope Shane Bowen has learned his lesson and says, what, this whole blitzing fad trend, maybe it's not going away. Maybe I should adopt it, and maybe we should bring some extra rushers. I think Dak will obviously handle it better than Watson did. Watson just doesn't look like he has any confidence, and why would he with that offensive line being so torn apart? But I do think, any quarterback that gets pressure usually is not going to fare well. So let's bring the pressure. If you win this, people are I think you've got the fan base back. And I saw a lot of people getting excited about the win against the Browns. It's nice. But that second half was tough. That was tough to stomach, that second half. So it's which team are we going to get? Are we going to get the first half team, which looked like a juggernaut for most of the first half? Are we going to get the second half team where it's 3 and outs, fumbles, missed field goals? There's still a lot of things to tighten up to make me feel like we can contend. So let's do it. Fuck it, right? So that's the Giants Cowboys preview. I mentioned this in the intro. I didn't want to talk about it last week because I just didn't even want to entertain the idea, because we've entertained the idea a lot of recent. So many times. Us starting 0-2. It's happened 10 of the past 12 years. Take a look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the past 12 seasons. So it's happened a lot, right? And people have always, and I've mentioned this more than anyone, I've always mentioned that the 0-2 start that everyone is most familiar with, that has turned out the best, was 2007. We started 0-2, went to the Super Bowl, and won. So I thought I would take a deeper dive into this, take a closer look at 0-2 starts, not just in Giants franchise history, but across the league in the past 10 years. So The Athletic had a pretty good article about 0-2 teams. There have been 9 0-2 teams in the past 10 seasons that have made the playoffs. Way more than I thought. Way more. And two teams have done it multiple times. The first of which is the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans in 2023 started 0-2 with losses to the Ravens and Colts. C.J. Stroud was sacked a record number of times. And then the offensive line got healthy. And they ended up becoming AFC South champions. Now the AFC South, not the strongest division. They do have the Jags, who were a playoff team 2 years ago. But Titans kind of fallen off, and the Colts are in rebuild mode. So that's, I don't know that it inspires a lot of hope, because the AFC South is just a different beast than the NFC East. The 2022 Cincinnati Bengals, this was the other team that I mentioned that got off to an 0-2 start. They ended up finishing 12-4 and lost in the conference championship. They began with losses to the Steelers in overtime and the Cowboys. Again, 2 very high-quality teams. Say what you will about the Steelers. Offense, at least the past 2 seasons, their defense has been just lockdown, shutdown type unit. So those are 2 tough games. Cowboys were pretty solid in 2022. And Joe Burrow was a major reason for that 0-2 start. He had 2 worst games of the season, throwing a career-high 4 interceptions in the opening week, and then season low 199 yards in week 2. And then he ended up playing to the level that we all expected of Joe Cool. The 2018 Houston Texans started 0-2. They finished 11-5, lost in the wild card. They opened 0-3 with losses to the Patriots, Titans, and Giants. I don't know if you remember that. That was like the first time that we faced Deshaun Watson. And I was not impressed. I was like, this is the guy. This is the guy. And then weeks 4 through 13, the Texans defense forced 19 turnovers, the second most in the league during that span, scored 74 points off them, third most in the league. So yeah, you get all the turnovers you want. If you're not turning them into points, what is the point? 2018 Seattle Seahawks started 0-2 and finished 10-6, lost in the wild card. They ended up sorting out their ground game. 2017 Saints with Offensive Rookie of the Year Alvin Kamara and Defensive Rookie of the Year Marshawn Lattimore started 0-2 and finished 11-5, lost in the divisional round. They opened the season with losses to the Vikings and Patriots. This is when the Patriots still had Tom Brady. And they ended up trading Adrian Peterson and putting the spotlight, giving the stage to Alvin Kamara, and that paid off for them. The 2016 Dolphins started 0-2, finished 10-6, lost in the wild card. They had a 1-4 record heading into week 6, and then Jay Ajayi, their 5th-round pick from the previous season, returned healthy, and he rushed for a whole bunch of 200-yard games. The 2015 Texans, what is going on in Houston? Started 0-2, finished 9-7, lost in the wild card. They had a 1-4 start and were 3-5 at the week 9 bye, and then went 5-1 in the division. And their defense ranked 3rd in the NFL, allowing 310.2 yards per game. So I think the one common thread amongst these is the defense usually steps it up. The offensive line gets better. Those are like the 2 major themes. It's like the offensive line cuts down on the sacks, protects the quarterback, picks up yards on the ground, and the defense, tightens up. 2015 Seahawks started 0-2, finished 10-6, lost in the divisional round. They were 4-4 at the week 9 bye. They stopped blowing leads, and the defense allowed the second fewest yards per game that season. So it's a Legion of Boom, maybe the tail end of the Legion of Boom. And then the 2014 Colts with Andrew Luck started 0-2, finished 11-5, lost in the conference championship. They opened the season with losses to the Broncos and Eagles, 2 Super Bowl contenders. My God, did Andrew Luck take a beating. So those are the 9 teams of the past 10 seasons. So it's not as rare as I thought it was. And I guess there's hope, but it's like if you're the Texans, it gives you the most hope because it seems like that's just in your blood to get off to a slow start and then finish strong. So I decided to take a look at, everyone knows about the '07 season with the Giants, starting 0-2 and then going win the Super Bowl. But what other Giants teams have started 0-2? We know it's happened a lot in recent history, and we mostly know the results from recent history. But what about if we go back further? So as I mentioned, we're in our 100th season with the New York Giants. 24 of those 100 seasons, almost a quarter, have started 0-2. So we know about this recent stretch. The 2021 Giants, 0-2. They finished 4-13. Joe Judge is canned. 2020, 0-2. We finished 6-10, almost won the friggin' division in a very weird COVID year. Previous season, 2019, start 0-2. We finished 4-12 under Pat Shurmur. It's Daniel Jones' rookie year, Dexter Lawrence's rookie year. 2018, we started 0-2, finished 5-11, which was Saquon's rookie year. How that is possible, I don't know, because so many fucking weapons. Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham Jr. That trio alone should get you 10 wins. And then the year before that, 2017, started 0-2, finished 3-13. Ben McAdoo gets canned before the year's over. 2015, we start 0-2, we finished 6-10 with multiple blown leads late in the game. I think Pro Football Reference had us down for an expected record of 8-8. I say we could have gone 10-6. The year before that, 2014, started 0-2, finished 6-10 in OBJ's rookie season. Defense sucks yet again. 2013, we started 0-2. We started like 0-6 or 7 that year, and we ended up finishing 7-9. So there was a stretch from 2013 to 2021 where it's like we were starting 0-2 every single year. We started 0-2 every year except 2016 and 2022, the 2 years we went to the playoffs. So in terms of recent history and the franchise, getting off to a 2-0 start, very good for your postseason chances. 0-2 start, not great. Of course, there's 07, as we keep mentioning, where we went 0-2 against the Cowboys and Packers in the opening games, and then finished 10-6, won the Super Bowl. Before that, we did not start 0-2 until 1996. Dan Reeves started 0-2, went 6-10 in his final year, and then the year before that, started 0-2 in 1995 and finished 5-11. Before that was 92, Ray Handley's last year, before Dan Reeves came on. Started 0-2 and finished 6-10. 1987, a strike year, so I don't know if you want to count that. 0-2 start, 6-9 finish. 82, also a strike year, started 0-2, finished 4-5. Before that was 1979, started 0-2, went 6-10. 1976, first year at Giant Stadium, started 0-2, 3-11 finish. 1974, started 0-2, finished 2-12. 1972, we started 0-2, finished with an 8-6 record, just missing the playoffs by a game. 1970, same deal, started 0-2, finished 9-5 with a 9-5 record, just missing the playoffs. In 1964, we finished 2-10-2. 1955 was 6-5-1 finish. 1953, 3-9. 1936, 5-6-1. 1934, started 0-2, finished with an 8-5 record, and won the NFL championship. So, as a franchise, starting 0-2, prospects not great. The 24 times that we have started 0-2, we have finished with a winning record 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And of those 5 times, we've gone to the playoffs twice. And we've won both times. So 2 times out of 24. You're looking at a little under 10%, like 8% chance of making the playoffs. So, I think that's why, so many fans, at least older fans, tend to get down after an 0-2 start, because it's just like, we've seen this before. Get off to the 0-2, and it's like it's all downhill from there. So, I don't know what it's going to take to turn it around. So, it's, just, keep that in mind. Like 8%. It's an 8% chance. I think when we were, before the Browns winning at Cleveland, our chances of making the postseason were like 2% or 1%, something like that. So, I don't know that, 2 to 8%. So that's where the hope-o-meter is for me right now, 2 to 8%. You beat Dallas, and it goes up to like 10%. Every win, just like a little notch in the right direction. But yeah, so that's why it's tough to stomach. Oh, I'm sorry. There were 2 more years. Woo! Completely didn't even see it. It was on the next page. So it's actually 26 times we started 0-2. Before the 1934 championship year, 1932 we went 4-6-2, and then 1925 we went 8-4. But there were no playoffs in 1925. In fact, 1925, our first season in the NFL, was the 6th regular season of the National Football League. We just entered the league along with the Detroit Panthers, Pottsville Maroons, Providence Steamrollers, the Canton Bulldogs. The Kenosha Maroons folded, and the Racine Legion and Minneapolis Marines mothballed, whatever the fuck that means. So, the only other, so the teams that are still in existence today, I don't even know, okay. Well, the Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, New York Giants all have kept, their names. There's a couple others here, though. I don't know why they have that there. The Panthers, are they sold the group of Detroit? Yeah. So, there's 3 teams that, I guess the Chicago Cardinals, you could say, because the Cardinals would then go to St. Louis and then Phoenix. So I'd say 4 teams are still in existence. There's like the Kansas City Cowboys, the Milwaukee Badgers, the Rock Island Independents, the Rochester Jeffersons, the Hammond Pros, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, the Duluth Kellys, the Dayton Triangles, the Columbus Tigers, the Buffalo Bisons, the Akron Pros. And there was a whole controversy over who actually won the championship because they just went by best record. And for the longest time, I guess the Chicago Cardinals had the best record, so they were awarded it. But then the Pottsville Maroons protested it, and it became a whole thing. But very interesting. It's just like no one thought to have playoffs, huh? It was just like we were 8-4, and by winning percentage, we were in 4th place, tied with the Akron Pros, who were 4-2-2. What the fuck? The Yellow Jackets had played 20 games and won 13 of them, and they came in 6th place. Or I guess 4th place, 5th place. Very weird. Like, no one played the same amount of games. The Maroons were suspended from the league because they played an unsanctioned game against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish All-Stars or something like that. So weird. How far we've come. So, yeah. The schedule, though. Jesus Christ. Who knows if that Panthers game is any longer winnable? I don't know. You just don't. I mean, it's just so. It feels like we have such a tough schedule. The only game that you think might be easy is like the Colts game. And even that can get bananar. So, yeah, that's the episode. I apologize for my voice. I had COVID a couple weeks ago. I've been coughing up, hacking up all kinds of goo for a long time, and I don't know what's happened. I had a couple of brews at a festival and some Chinese food, and maybe that's just throwing my system asunder. But if anyone finds this sexy, let me know. Could use a compliment right now. So that's the episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Go Big Blue.